We went from transactional to transcendental in 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I'm going to do it to you in 5, okay? My team was brilliant. Okay. We started talking about getting requirements right for better traceability. And we all sat around and I said, I don't even understand what that means. And it was a self-selecting team because we all thought, well, actually, really, it's all about putting things in boxes so that we can know exactly what we're going to deliver. And so when the client changes their mind, we can charge them extra money. And once that came out, it was like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, we could talk about different types of contract. And we did. We talked about reimbursable. We talked about box of contracts, bills of quantity, schedule of rates. And that was all over. And we had good fun for half an hour, you know, how to screw the client, how the client screws you. And then we all sat around and said, well, actually, there has to be more to life than that. Sometimes you have to do that, but there surely is more to life than that. So what we started talking about, and I kind of injected it in, please forgive me, I talk too much, but I threw in some ideas about how people might behave in different situations. I'm going to do it to you the same as I did it to my team in 2 minutes flat. You've all flown in the last year, yes? Good. Yes. Okay. And you didn't actually want to have the flight. The flight got you to where you wanted to be. You wanted to be like, I want to be in London this evening at 9 o'clock. And the whole flight bit is a real pain in the backside. Okay, what I'm going to do, and what you did voluntarily, presumably, in fact you paid money, was you actually got yourself into a thin metal tube, which was then filled full of a high explosive fuel. This lunatic at the front then took off and turned you into a flying bomb. He or she then accelerated you up to 750 kilometers per hour, took you up to 10,000 meters where there isn't enough air to breathe. And then they threw you another piece of concrete, in my case London tonight, and you stepped out and said, we're 3 minutes late. Last time you flew, what was the name of the pilot? Did you thank the pilot?
Yes.
Oh, one of two of you did. Well done. The rest of you, no. The rest of you, did you even see the pilot? Did you even check there was a pilot on board? And if there was, did you check they actually had the qualifications to fly the plane? Now, the analogy is, projects are much the same. If you're a damn good conventional project manager, you are a pilot. Nice smooth takeoff, nice and smooth, gin and tonic, okay? By the way, last time you flew, did you want the plane to do a barrel roll? No. Nice, gentle, and then down the other end. And that's what a good project manager does. And I use this analogy to say, yeah, that's cool, that's no problem with that. We want good pilots to fly conventional projects. But increasingly they're all saying, yeah, but it's not conventional. Things don't fit in the boxes anymore. And it gets a bit messy on some of these boxes. So I showed them a bit of work I'd done a year ago. Very simple 2x2. It's actually more complex than this, but let's keep it simple. We all love a 2x2, and I've only got 2 minutes. This axis is what we call structural complexity. That's basically, if you want to think about it in simple terms, how many people, how many packages on your work breakdown structure, how many contractors are involved, how many people. This one is the nasty one. I love it, but a lot of people don't. It's called the dynamic complexity. And that's how fast everything is jumping out the box, or the boxes are changing themselves. Now, low, high. Can you see that? Is that okay? Yeah? Ish? Yeah, cool. Who's that balding man? Oh shit, that's me, okay. Now, the low structural complexity, the low dynamic, is a conventional project. When I say conventional, building a building like this, or building an oil platform, believe it or not, is low structural complexity and low dynamic. You don't change it, okay? And this is what we call the pilot box. That is a conventional view of project management, and a damn good one too. You have to be good at that. As you go up this one and you have more planes flying around, you then think about air traffic control. And I call it program management, you might call it portfolio, I don't mind. This is air traffic control. And certainly the last time you flew, you'd never see these people. They are completely and totally invisible, but they make sure that the projects are aligned such they don't bash into each other. Does this analogy make sense? And increasingly, we've got very good at this, PM book and all that good stuff. Program management over here. Now, it's when we jumped out the boxes that everyone got freaked out. And I said, what happens if you have a flight and you're halfway to London and all the passengers say, actually, forget London, Paris? And we knock on the door and the pilot foolishly opens the door and look, all the stakeholders on board have decided we want to go to Paris. Now, a conventional pilot will say, no, we are flying to London. That's what it says on your ticket. I have a plan. It's nice and boring. I have an autopilot. That's the thing. So it's not an acceptable change. It's too big. But what happens actually if you do have to now have a completely different objective and everything is now at the box? High dynamic, low structural. What sort of pilot? And be careful with this one. We call it the Agile Box, and I put that in inverted commas because it's not strictly true, but it gives you the feeling. Lots and lots of continuous change. And we used the analogy of a fighter pilot. Fighter pilots, when they take off, they have a plan. Say it's Bob Baghdad or whatever it was, but somebody else has a plan for them. Yes? And unfortunately, that person doesn't share their plan with them. And often the plans... And so fighter pilots take off with a plan. Agile project managers take off with a plan, but they have to be very open and quick to change things. So if a missile's coming in, they can't say, missile coming in. Let's just look at my procedures. Missile coming in. Oh, that's a change to my scope. Okay, now... Obviously, we need to have a steering committee clearance on this one. So, incoming missile. Yeah, it's coming in quite fast. Yeah, when can we have a meeting? Next Tuesday. No, George can't make it. Okay, how about Wednesday? Could we have it fairly quickly? It's getting quite bang, and it's all over. And you want a pilot that can actually do something there and then. Therefore, you've got to empower them a lot more, and they will make sometimes mission error judgments. And so this is more the agile way of thinking. It's very much out of the box. And then finally we talked about what sort of organisational culture would you have to manage these sorts of people. And in my last 30 seconds, the team were great. They were coming up with great examples. Building an oil platform, having a company that builds lots of oil platforms. I use my examples from Shell and BP. Over here we started thinking, hang on a minute, what's a good example? And someone said Apple. Apple is full of a whole bunch of people operating like that. And they've got someone called Steve Jobs, who's very strange in the way he thinks and will accept these incredibly high levels of dynamic and structural complexity and feel comfortable with it. And you can't put it in a box and you can't write it down. It's not a procedure, it's a state of mind. As you know, Steve built up the company, and then the professional managers like me, MBAs, moved in and said, oh no, you can't do it like that, and have this procedure and the rest of it. And then eventually, because Steve said, no, I'm not doing any of that. And they said, well, write down what you do. He said, I can't, I'm just Steve Jobs. And they said, well, thank you, Mr. Jobs, we don't need you anymore. What happened to Apple? It collapsed. And then they had to bring him back in. And now he's done it again, and you can't figure out how he did it. It's just that he's happy to be in that box. Microsoft, God bless them, live there. And nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's a good, solid product. But Apple, as you know, have now just overtaken Microsoft in terms of their market capitalization. So we decided it was all about being in the right box at the right time and not sticking in just one box and being flexible. And then we decided the whole question was the wrong question. We didn't understand it anyway. So we changed it, and it was, instead of being getting requirements right for better traceability, we changed it to getting people right for better outcomes, which I thought was brilliant. So a round of applause for my team, please. Where's my team? Round of applause. Well done. Woo! Thank you.